So this is the history of the fourth rightly guided Caliph, Ali. So to truly explore his reign, we will need to go back to the death of Muhammad. You see, Ali was Muhammad's cousin slash son-in-law. Yes, Muhammad's cousin married Muhammad's daughter. The Shiite claim that before Muhammad's death, he appointed Ali as his successor. If this was true, why wasn't Ali the first rightly guided caliph? Well, that's a little interesting. After Muhammad's death, it was up to Ali to prepare Muhammad's body for its funeral. While Ali was removed from the picture, Abu Bakr rushed the vote for the next caliph and took the position. Needless to say, this drove some tensions between the two. Oddly, approximately 6 months later, Fatima, Muhammad's daughter and wife of Ali, had a miscarriage and died suddenly. Sunni claimed that her death was a tragic accident, but Shiite claim her death was due to broken ribs because of Caliph Abu Bakr's men when they came to make sure that Ali did not dispute the election results. After all, it was completely fair election. Completely fair. Well, Abu Bakr only ruled for 2 years, as we've already covered before, and we covered his events during his reign. And he died during the siege of Damascus. Finally, it was Ali's time to shine, take his rightful position as, oh shoot. You see, Abu Bakr declared Umar his successor. So Ali was passed over once again. Well, look, after 10 years, you see, Umar was assassinated. Interesting how Umar, the most powerful man in the Muslim world, was assassinated by a random slave while praying. Finally, once again, it was time for Ali to take his rightful position. And this time, at least it looked like a slam dunk. You see, as we stated in our last video, Umar, before his death, set up a council of Muhammad's companions in order to pick this next successor. And Ali was one of them. So Ali's like, good, I'm ready to go. Let's get this done. It's in the bag. We're all lined up. I'm the front runner. There's just one issue. You see this little guy, this Uthman character, this wealthy merchant. He was in the running as well, and he was top with him. Well, it seems at the last possible second, Uthman was picked over Ali. Again, Ali was denied. Well, let's see, after 12 years, as we stated in our last video, Uthman was assassinated by Muslim rebels while in his house. And Ali's sons were guarding him. Well, did either of Ali's sons die? No. Only the person they were supposed to be guarding died. Congratulations on that well-accomplished job. Oh, finally, after so many years, Ali had the opportunity to take his rightful place, and he wasn't letting it slip out of his hands this time. He seized it full force and became the fourth and final rightly guided caliph. Now, the first thing this new caliph had to deal with was, well, the assassination of the last guy in office. So he needs to bring those guys to justice. But just a little issue with that. You see, his assassins, these rebels, were kind of his supporters. Just a little bit. Actually, absolutely Ali's supporters. So instead of hunting down the assassins, Ali chose to attempt to purge all of Uthman's relatives from power, claiming that they were corrupt, may or may not have been. And also, he decided to move the capital. So a lot of paperwork needed to be done, a lot of administration. You'll get to that, that assassination thing later. This didn't go over so well. You see, so this didn't go over so well with many of the people. We can see what Ali was trying to do in two very different ways. Either Ali really didn't want to execute any of his supporters after all that just got him into power finally, or Ali didn't want to execute anyone that was innocent, and he was doing a very slow and careful investigation. Either way, history tells that there's some consequences of this decision. So, as he was trying to remove Uthman's relatives from power, Aisha, mother of the faithful, daughter of Abu Bakr, the first rightly guided caliph. This is Muhammad's child bride. Muhammad married her when she was 6 and consummated the marriage when she was a 9-year-old prepubescent girl, and he was in his 50s. That's the Aisha we're talking about. So she gathered an army calling for vengeance for the blood of Uthman and took control of a city in the name of seeking justice. Well, while that was just going on to the east, Ali was sitting there and started hearing rumors flying around that he might have had a little something to do with the assassination of Uthman. After all, his sons were at Uthman's house to protect him. They did a great job at that. Guard of the year. Well, Ali could not allow these rumors to continue, and he could not allow an army to take and seize control of a city that was under his control originally. So he went ahead and gathered his army and marched to face Aisha. What happened that day that they met is a widely debated topic. It seems that the top thoughts are that Aisha and Ali were going to end things peacefully, but an evil third party started the Battle of the Camel. Other accounts say, hey, they started fighting. One side or the other started it, and then it just rolled right into a normal battle. Either way, in the end, Ali was victorious and Aisha was captured. But Ali didn't have much time to celebrate his new victory. You see, there was another threat arising back home in the West. See, you remember that whole, I'm going to purge all of Uthman's relatives from power? Well, it seems that they might have united against him and split the nation in two. Who could have seen that coming, right? This would not this will not be tolerated by Ali. So he marched his armies to face Uthman's relatives. And when the battle lines were drawn, eventually, after many skirmishes and a couple months, the battle began. Ali was winning until the rebels took pages from the Quran, wrapped it around their spears, and then proceeded to march into battle with their spears wrapped in the Quran. This psychological warfare worked. Ali's men collapsed, not willing to attack the Quran. After this, a truce was agreed upon, where they split the caliphate into two. On the return, a group of Ali's soldiers abandoned the camp. This group felt that the rebels had betrayed Islam by fighting against the caliph, and that Ali had failed as a caliph by negotiating a truce with apostates. So they planned the assassination of both Ali and the leaders of the rebellion. Well, the leader of the rebels survived the assassination attempt, but Ali did not. With his death, we reach the end of the rule of the rightly guided caliph. But we are left with many outstanding questions. Did Abu Bakr have anything to do with Fatima's miscarriage and death? Did Ali have anything to do with the convenient assassinations of Umar and Uthman? Is why Ali went after Uthman's relatives? Why did he go after Uthman's relatives? Was it because of justice, because they were corrupt, or was it removing rivals from power? What really happened at the Battle of the Camel? Who started it? Was it Ali? Was it Aisha? Was it an unknown third party of evil men? Was Aisha seeking justice or just seeking to take power, maybe try to become a caliph herself? And the final question, was Ali a failure? Consumed by vengeance for his wife's death and driven to have what he thought was his rightful place? Or was he just dealt a very bad hand and had to do the best that he could with what he had? These questions stand out, but sadly, they will most likely remain unanswered. History is not an exact science. It deals with probabilities, such as, given what information we know, what is most likely what happened. It's never an absolute answer. In this, as in many things throughout history, it is left up to the intentions of the individuals involved. And we have no clue what their intentions really were. We only have theories. I'll end this history study with this. In history, it is very rare to have something so documented that we can say with extreme confidence that it is what happened. Definitely in the ancient world. But there is one event we can look back at and say, no, that's what happens. We have enough documentation. We have enough evidence. That is the best answer to what happened. And that is the historical fact of Jesus's life, death, and resurrection. It is backed up by an overwhelming amount of reliable documentation and firsthand accounts. So we're going to go ahead and enter into Q&A. I am sorry for those of you that are in the chat. I wanted to get through our topic as fast as possible and then open it up to look at what you guys have in the comments. So, Ellie, well done. If you want to come over and join me, you can come and say hi to these fine gentlemen. Ollie. Yes. Going through. Someone said Ali, the first rightly guided Imam. Yes, in some ways. And again, they still thought that he should have been the rightly guided caliph just in general because he was given that right by Muhammad, according to some sources. So, hey, sorry, going through the comments real fast here. Trying to get down here. Ladies, yes. And ladies. You taking a look at it? Cool. Pull that up. Again, this was just a brief, real quick study on this. I just wanted to get this out so someone can give a real quick history of it. Again, I love history. I love diving into it. But again, there are no absolutes when it comes to history this old. So what best fits? And both theories really do fit. You could see each one. I'd say the theory of Ali being behind the assassinations, I mean, that's pretty convenient that they just kept getting assassinated one after the other. And finally, he got assassinated. That'd be a nice little turn of events. But, I mean, one reigned for 10 years and the other reigned for 12 years. I mean, that's 22 years, 24-year wait when it's all said and done. That's a long time to wait, to plan, to plot. The Sunni were right, and they were responsible for the death of Fatima, then I could see him having a real desire for vengeance. But I can't guarantee that that's what actually happened. I mean, he did serve in their administration. He could have just been trying to climb up to get better position for assassinations. But in the end, it's really their call. So, again, no absolutes in history. So if you guys have any questions about what we covered, go ahead and put it in the comments. And my wonderful wife has decided to join us coming out of the chat and in. Wonderful person.
Sorry, guys. I would have been over here sooner, but I was not expecting to be caught in. So
yeah, figured why not. We got people in the chat, people talking, see you engage. Might as well have your actual face to go with it.
This is me.
There she is. Wonderful wife she is. So let me go through real quick. I was not looking at the live chat while I was teaching. I normally try to leave that for the end because this does go on other websites. So I can clip the Q&A section. It's only for YouTube. And I just edited this section out for the other websites. So this is special only for you guys because you guys were brave enough actually to show up.
Yeah, and we do have 2 Muslims with us today.
Oh, cool.
So Rabbi Lewis and SSFDF, I believe.
I hope I did the history on it. I mean, this is the best that I could find on it. I spent many hours researching these caliphs.
Do you see this one?
No, I did not. Go ahead and throw it on up there.
I am Shia myself, says SSFDF. I don't believe in that. Actually, one of Ali's disciples contributed to killing Abu Uthman. He really deserved it.
There were accusations that he was corrupt, that he was basically just being a poor leader. I mean, after he burned all the Qurans, I mean, that's a pretty, that's pretty damning. So he burned all the other Qurans and released what we currently have.
Yeah, what do you guys
That's the
think about
official.
that? Actually, I'm interested to hear the Muslim perspective on that. Did you guys know about Uthman
And that's well
burning all the
documented.
Qurans?
So if you have questions about that, go back and watch the history of Uthman. I dive into that. I know you talk about it with one of your videos.
Yeah.
That was pretty shocking to learn.
Yeah.
That, yeah, it was the second time. It was the second time it was gathered. And he took all the Qurans and burned them, except for his official Quran. And then there was a bunch of disagreement about it by some of the head teachers of the Quran, according to Muhammad, disagreed and said, you shouldn't even memorize this. This is blasphemy, basically.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that was not an unpopular opinion either.
Yeah,
actually, the unpopular opinion was burning all the rest of the Qurans.
Well, it's crazy. It's also that, you guys are missing a whole section of the Quran because, I mean, according to the Hadith, they just forgot it.
Well, yeah, at least
they
one
forgot
section.
2 surahs. 2 entire surahs. Just, hey, we used to say these things, but we don't remember them.
Yeah.
There's something like this, but I know you can claim, some can claim that, hey, Allah intended that. I'm sorry to say, but that sounds a little weak to me. After Allah said that he would protect the Quran, to have a goat eat it and then it to be lost by just poor memory.
Well, not only that, but if you guys know Quranic history, you'll know that the Quran was only compiled into written form all together as, one book instead of just, different sayings scattered about on bits and pieces.
Yeah, because that didn't happen until the first Rightly Guided Caliph. They put it all together and then they gave it to one of Muhammad's widows. And then it wasn't actually official, canonized, okay, this is the Quran, until Uthman.
But the only reason that it was even brought together to begin with is because so many of the Qur'an, which are the people who know the Quran in their heads and recite it, so many of the Qur'an who were the only ones who knew those parts of the Quran, they were killed in battle. And so all of those things that those Qur'an of the Quran knew are just gone. Because they were the only ones.
And as I've gone through this history of the Rightly Guided Caliphs, we see over and over again that there's just always aggressive jihad. Ever since the first caliph, there was aggressive jihad, expanding, taking on the Christian nation of the time, the Byzantine Empire, aggressively taking them on, as well as the Sassanid Empire as well. So that's part of history that's not really put together. And I mean, if you're going to have this only memorized by people, there's a lot of people that died in those battles.
Yeah, which is why the Quran was compiled, but only after great loss, because they didn't want to lose the rest. So yeah, what do you guys think about that? Do you know
it's not
about
how you
that?
Real quick here, look at this.
Yeah.
I know you've had it down for a while, but I was kind of on a rant.
So Tyree says he burned all the Qurans. Isn't that how you control people, by controlling knowledge?
That's where it comes. That's where it comes down to. I mean, we've seen the only people that we've seen who burn books, who intend to destroy knowledge, have always been people who wanted to control the information. If you control the information that people hear, you can easily control the people. And in this case, there are definitely entire sections that he missed before he burned. And he didn't just burn Qurans, he burnt all the other documentation. Because whenever
that he could get his hands on. Some people did conceal them, which answers this follow-up question, but you can go ahead and continue.
Yes. Well, whenever Muhammad would get a revelation, which looked like an epileptic seizure or demon possession, kind of how you look at it, I do need to do a deeper dive into that. But whenever he would get one of these revelations, it would be a random time period, and his followers would just grab whatever they had to write this stuff down. Muhammad never wrote anything down. In fact, again, this stuff wasn't compiled until way after his death. A lot of Muslims don't know that. A lot of Muslims think that as he was getting these revelations from God, it was being immediately wrote down into the Quran, and that's not the case at all. In fact, a lot of them were written down on rocks, random pieces of clothing, leaves. These aren't known to be reliable ways of documentation.
Yeah.
These are all easily destroyed.
So, Tyre, yeah, so we touched on it briefly, but as far as there still being 13 or so Qurans, yeah, there is a lot of different Qurans that exist currently. Part of that is because at the time there were a lot of prominent teachers, some in specific, who are even noted in the Hadith, who were like, yeah, guys, do not let them find your Qurans. Do not let them find these pieces or parts. Conceal what you have, and Allah will reward you for it. Don't let them get burned. And so some of that did survive. Also, there have definitely been more modern alterations, which never happens. Yeah, there's a lot of reasons, but I think have you touched on that in the past? I know
I have touched on that.
One of my most recent videos is Quran Bonfire or something like that, and the title should be pretty easy to find, and I talk about that as well and give all the sources. If you guys want to look into the actual sources, I have those all listed out. So
yeah, now some Muslims might come up with the objection, hey, what about the Bible? You've got all these different versions of the Bible. I'd say, you know what? There are huge differences between the Quran and the Bible. The Quran, it's the value of the specific words. The Bible, it is the value of the message that's given. Just to name one of the many differences.
Yeah.
And I did an entire analysis on the Quran versus the Bible as far as story value. So story analysis of it. So thank you guys so much for joining. I do want to let you guys know that this week I'm continuing our short series on the Quran. I know we have 30 of these to get through before I am all said and done with season 1. I'll reevaluate at that point, ask you guys in our community, say, hey, do you guys want me to continue this? Maybe focus on something else for a while. Leave it up to you guys. This Sunday, I'll be talking about Sharia law and the United States. Is this something that is compatible? Is Sharia law being based upon Muhammad's life and Muhammad's teachings compatible with Americans' ideals? And then next week, I think it's the Crusades. I think I just put that one up. The Crusades versus Jihad, the untold story. And it gets very interesting. There's a lot of history to go through on that one. So that should be fun. You know me, I love random bits of history, like random sections. You can testify to that, considering I pull random bits of history out all throughout our lives.
They're fun though.
So
we do have 2 comments I'd like to address. Let's address this one first, if that's okay.
Sure.
So SSFDF says there are many chapters of Quran that might be missing, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the Quran is corrupted. So,
well, considering the claim that the Quran has been perfectly preserved, has a bunch of holes in the narrative, primarily being, again, what we're talking about, the burning, the missing, and the most reliable teachers of the Quran saying, hey, this is not true. And I'm pointing to those teachers because that's who Muhammad pointed to as being the most reliable teachers of the Quran. So if they're saying, hey, this thing is kind of messed up, you shouldn't be learning this.
Yeah.
Then according to Muhammad, you shouldn't be learning this because these were the people he left it to. And the man who went ahead and collected the Quran wasn't even on Muhammad's list. He didn't make the top 4. I don't know why you wouldn't have picked one of the top 4 to do it. I think that would have been a no-brainer for me personally. But that is Uthman's call.
Yeah.
So
regarding the corruption itself, we've also done videos on that, so you can feel free to check those out.
I look at all the shorts that I've done. I point out a lot of the corruption issues, a lot of the contradictions that are in the Quran, and there are so many. Like I said, I've got 30 lined up. Highlights. This is anti-reality. This teaches something that is in every way, shape, or form. So
as a Muslim, I would challenge you to dive into those things, look into them, and really deeply consider them, because the Quran, you know, if it's important to you to follow the Quran, then you need to be aware that the Quran does provide answers on what to do if there are contradictions within the Quran. In fact, the Quran states, if it were from any other than Allah, there would contain within it much contradiction. So if there are contradictions in the Quran,
hey, I've got 60 videos.
That's a quote of Allah. So you should be very concerned if there are contradictions in the Quran.
And I've got enough to find 60 really easily. So yeah, that's a place to start. I look at those shorts. Again, there's less than 60 seconds each. I have to keep them less than 60 seconds each. And I'm very clear with what the Quran says. I just directly read it for you guys. I might cut out a bit of the section at the end, wherever it's like, oh, Allah is all knowing, Allah is all seeing. That sort of stuff I kind of leave off. Because again, I am gotta be very time sensitive. Because I've got to keep it within that 60 seconds. And I still have to say and apply very basic logic. And that's all I'm doing to it, is just applying basic logic. So is the Quran logical? If the answer is yes, then it should easily be able to pass my basic analysis of it. So
an unrelated comment, but related to Islam and Sharia. Okay.
Future live stream. Yeah. That's actually talking about my Sunday live stream. I see your point. I am being very careful not to spoil. You have to come in on Sunday at 4 p.m. EST to find out what's going on with that.
But I would wager it would be safe to say I agree that being a woman, I think Sharia is not compatible with the US.
Well, we got Muslim senators, right? So obviously they think that it is compatible. So maybe they know something I don't. Let's dive on into that and pull it apart.
Don't know how much you're going into that, but I would also say the senators aren't the best representation of Islam either, considering their own people are mad at them.
You're right. When it comes to Islam, I have to, just like the same with Christianity, I have to go back to the founders' teachings.
Yeah.
So that would be Muhammad and the Quran and Jesus. Those would be who I have to go back to. Reliance of the Traveler is basically, summarize it as Sharia law documented. I'll be relying on that heavily for any sort of references to that. I did do that already in my previous Sharia law videos where I covered one topic per video, but that was a long time ago. So maybe things have changed. That happens, right? The Quran changes over time.
So speaking of that, Tyree also says maybe one of the many different Qurans has less contradictions than the other Qurans.
Good question. Right now, I'm just relying on the most popular one.
I would also say no across the board. Sorry.
But I would be shocked. In fact, if there was less contradictions in the other Qurans, wouldn't that just prove the entire thing? Wouldn't it show that all of them just aren't reliable?
Yeah.
Again, this was compiled after Muhammad had died. And this is very different to the Gospels.
Yeah.
Because the Gospels were compiled while in the lifespan of firsthand witnesses that were there, and they're the ones compiling it.
Yeah, the latest dates by the most like liberal in the sense of like willing to give time or whatever. Like historians and such is 40 years after the death of Christ for it
That
to be
is
said and done. Like,
as I stated earlier in this stream, that is unheard of as far as historical documentation comes.
and this is for the Bible though.
And that's so many eyewitness accounts to have all the gospels within the lifespan of the first-hand witnesses is groundbreaking. Again, that's different than the Quran, because you say, well, it was still written within, well, compiled within the lifespan of the eyewitnesses. Well, yeah, but it's not their story that they're telling. It was written down beforehand. So what I'm saying is the people that wrote this down, it would be comparable if Muhammad was able to write himself and wrote down each of these as they were coming out.
Yeah.
That would make the Quran much more reliable in my eyes. If it was Muhammad actually writing it down himself and then giving this to his the first caliph, saying, hey, here's the Quran. It's all canonized right here. When I die, this is where you go. I would have a lot more faith in the Quran's reliability if that was the case. And it just is not. And I haven't even touched the hadiths.
Oh, yeah. Well, I do find it funny that so many people refute the Quran with hadith that are weak hadith. Like, you go to the hadith and it says weak right there. And they're like, oh, well, the Quran can't be right because that's hadith. And it's like, yeah, cool. They're both wrong. Cool.
Well, it just gets me because the hadith are written hundreds of years after Muhammad's death.
Well, I mean,
so as far as reliability goes, firsthand accounts, that's like taking the Apocrypha accounts and saying that those are reliable, absolutely reliable. And no, they're not. They're fan fiction at best. So
Tyree says, what amazes me with the Bible is it has the good, the bad, and the ugly, and God's grace for all of us.
And I don't want to get into this too much, but that is one of the biggest differences between the Quran and the Bible. The Quran is a list of rules saying, hey, do this, do this, do this. This is an example here. This is who you need to follow. This is how best to do it. And the Bible isn't. It's a historical book who is documenting the redemption process of humanity. You have the statement of the problem in the beginning of Genesis with the fall of man. You have the redemption with Jesus coming and saving mankind. And then you have the falling action, which is the spread of the gospel to the world. It perfectly falls into place with an easy narrative. And it's 40 books done by multiple authors, all compiled, but yet it completely shows only one narrative the entire time. That's mind-blowing. If you've ever tried to do any sort of cooperative work with someone, writing something down or coming up with a story, you really have to work together closely. And a lot of these authors didn't know each other.
Yeah.
Some of these authors were, 100 years plus apart in some cases.
Yeah.
But yet it's all one narrative. You could not do that. You would have a hard time to do that with today's technology.
Yeah.
And just a bunch of people all working together on a book. You would have a hard time unless one person was the head of it that oversaw everything. And that's what Christians believe. Because they believe that there was one God who oversaw all of it. It was all inspired by the Holy Spirit. So, okay. I guess I need to get off my soapbox and stop chatting so much. Is there any other comments you want to hit before we end in prayer?
I know you segued to what you have coming up next.
Okay, what do you have coming up next?
Yeah.
Make sure to check her out. It's Aisha Elohim. If you don't know, I'm like the attachment most of the time. Whenever I introduce us to new people, and she's got the whole setup going, they'll be like, "Oh, cool! She has a YouTube channel. That's awesome. That's incredible." And then I say, "Well, so do I." And they're like, "Oh, you do?"
Yeah, you know, I just realized the entire time when David streamed, this was the background.
I
and we
know!
still had so many people like, "Oh, you have a YouTube too, your brother in Christ?"
I'm just an attachment. I'm just the extra. Oh, don't worry. I prefer your content anyway.
But
the content's great.
Thank you. Tyray says, I saw you're planning on a new video in the future. I mean, I'm always planning on a new video. I have like 5 ongoing videos.
So what is the next one? Can you give us a hint to what your next video is going to be about? Actually, you know what? Since you did already post that sort of hint, what are the next 2 videos you're working on?
So Tyray, I'm assuming the one you're referring to is the Hatun Tosh one, which I'm very excited about.
Hatun Tosh, which she just got David's channel.
Yep.
So she's going to need some art, wouldn't you say?
I mean, that'd be cool if she actually wants it.
Don't care one way or the other, Hatun. You're getting it. You're getting it no matter what your opinions are. You can throw it in the trash afterwards, but you're getting it.
I mean, we are meeting her in California in September, so she will probably have a nice little package of some goodies like the other people we've met in person after artwork projects.
David on a stream was showing off his little gift. And guys, I do want to remind you again, we are giving away a copy of Nabil's book, Seeking Allah, Finding Jesus. If you're interested in that, go look at our review. It's got all the, actually, it's just from last Sunday. It's got all the details on how to win a digital copy of that book. So go check that out.
Yeah.
So, okay, so you said one thing, but what was the other thing? I know you're avoiding it. I will drag it out of you if it takes me all night. No, I'm going to go to bed.
So, okay, so in my defense, I'm not positive on order, but certainly this month. This month, there are a lot of special events happening. And to celebrate one or all of them, because I can get away with it because they're close enough to each other.
She likes cheating.
Well, you're the one who lined them up together.
Hey, you pick the dates.
I will be doing something to do with this and this.
So in other words, I need a new background.
You know, I was actually just thinking about that because I could totally make one that's like all the different apologetics empire people.
That would be pretty cool. Let me know what you guys think. Would that be a good idea for her? But as you guys are deciding that, let's go ahead and end in prayer.
Oh, hey, Truth Defenders.
Ah!
Coming in for the close.
Wow. Come on, sliding in the last second. Hey, bud.
Nice to have you, though.
So we are going to go ahead and end in prayer. Lord of heaven and earth, we thank you for the opportunity to be able to dive back into history and see your plan come to fruition, to be able to examine the lives of those who have come before us, to have the opportunity to learn from their mistakes. I pray that your hand will be upon each of us as we go through our lives. Give us wisdom to hear your voice and the opportunities to show the world. I ask for your hand to be upon friend V as he continues to search for your glory and your honor. And I pray for friend B as he enters into a new part of his life. I also lift up Jessica, who was on our Roe v. Wade abortion live stream. I ask for your hand to be upon her, that you give her wisdom and guidance as she begins this journey to seek you.
And God, we also pray for the Muslims that were on the stream, our Muslim friends who are also seeking truth. May they find truth and may they continue to pursue it and to pursue you.
In the name of Jesus Christ, in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, amen.
It's good to see you guys. God bless.